I think the economic potential of the diaspora in Canada I think it's massive, right? The key thing about diasporas is their connections to other countries and the networks that they have, right? And to do business overseas, right? It implies that networks are inevitable, they're a necessity, right? You don't do business or develop trade in an island, right? So these bridges are required, and that is what the diaspora does, right? It provides these bridges, it provides the connections, and these sorts of linkages are crucial. No. So one of the main points of the paper that we just published, Diaspora Nation, is that the diaspora is here. Diaspora is not a separate part of Canada. It is a part of Canada, and we should not think of it as something else or an other or something that is outside of us, but it is part of Canada. The Canadian population is, it's made up of mostly immigrants, children of immigrants, descendants of immigrants, and we are all part of this diaspora. We are all part of some diaspora, right? So what we need to do is we need to see the diaspora as part of us. And when we make policy, right, to take that into consideration, right? So we don't make policy thinking of Canada as an island on its own, right? But we make policy understanding that our population already has these networks, right? Already are part of these diaspora networks. Well, a lot of it has been in the report, in the Diaspora Nation report itself, where we have laid out a lot of policy recommendations. Most of them are very direct, but the overarching one, right, is again to think about the Canadian population as the diaspora when making policy, right? So the idea is to have a diaspora lens to policy making. Not just think of this Canadian population on its own when making policy as some static population that has no networks to outside of Canada, right, when you're making policy, but instead realize and recognize that the population already has these networks and connections, right? And then construct policy, right, that actively uses these networks and bridges and linkages, right? Because that's what diasporas do, right? So the key thing we need to recognize about diasporas is they are, at heart, informal networks. They're hard to track down, but they're there, right? So making policy that takes for granted that the linkages are already there, I think, would be a great leap forward, right, for this country.